Hey, good morning everybody, this is Rolf from Tesla Owners US, and we have JJ here again, and today is the big moment where I got an envelope, which you see here, and there is the card in there, and that is that Tegra card which was reworked, and now everything in return. I'm gonna put it back together. I hope that I don't have
pressed insane. I went insane.
So we are prepared for that. The tools are ready again. Here are all the tools. It's always so nice organized and bring those tools with them. And here is our computer. We put the light on for that. Yes, this is what we do so that we do not close the trunk here. All of the pieces are in here. And he is already prepared, having his wristband on. Right? That's necessary. The only thing what I didn't like there was it did not come back in a static bag. It came back if you take that out there. So what you see that it was a plastic bag. So you be really careful. There's a plastic bag in there. So that is the card where it was on. Yeah. Yes, that's a plastic bag. It's not ideal to put it in a plastic bag. It should be in a static bag. But we have to be careful to ground it first and then take it easily out.
Yeah.
So that we don't spark it. This is where the memory is on. There was a small card here. This is actually the chip. Let me see that here. It's closer. That's the chip what they replaced. And they put all of the data on that memory for me, and they put it back on here. Right? So they replaced the chip on it and put it back on there. So that's all what it is there. And that's the Tegra card we're gonna put back into the device or into the board computer. And there we have to be careful with this. So we have to ground that first and then take the card out. Yeah. Because all of that plastic, that's very easy to now have it statically loaded, right? Yeah. Now easily get the card out. So, okay, let's the work begin. So from the card we want to show you what that is. It's actually this dude here, that one, that was replaced. Actually I don't know how they do it, wave soldering. They are heating it up and then take the card out and then they're heating the other ones up and sink it down again.
Requires a special machine called a micro soldering machine.
Micro soldering?
Micro soldering.
Okay, guys, micro soldering. If you guys can do micro soldering, let me know. Put it in the description. I don't necessarily might not want to extend it always because it took 3 weeks ago. We met 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It took about 3 weeks, and I got stuck in customs also, you know, and they did not know what to do. I had to either do a pro forma invoice with that, but it was really not necessary because it's been returned, right? It's been repaired and returned. But anyway, you have to write a pro forma invoice for the EU. So if I find someone in the US who can do micro soldering, I would be helpful. Please write it down in the comments there and I contact you. Okay, let's get to work. Yeah, there were some stances there, right? Remember? We had to put the stances in and then we put the card on or something. That was the heatsink.
Yep. Yep, and the heatsink goes right over top of that guy.
Yeah. And then the bracket there went on top of that heatsink. And there were those screws with had
yeah, this goes
a feather in there.
Yeah, that goes on after
After we put it in,
after we
right?
put the card in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys.
With the spring in there. Yeah. So these ones we had to. So let me get my tool set, my small one. I have this micro tool set there. Wait a second. So here's the card where my data is on, and then I'm going to show you where the data is on and what is on that data. Important key data. If you can't have that, here's my tool set for the micro talks and secure talks. And there's one there. And there is on the side, you can see it here on the side when you tip that over. Then they're showing you what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, those are hex screws though, and not Torx. But that's okay. We should be able to use a Torx for it.
We have a hex screws probably as well.
I think I used the Torx for it last time. It shouldn't be in there too tight.
Ah, yes, there was a bolt on the other side. Or not a bolt,
A nut.
a nut, yeah. A very tiny one. Yeah. I saw that at Gruber sells in commission roadsters. They had an orange, very orange roadster for sale.
Do you remember the VIN on it?
Yeah, there was an earlier one. That you look up the history of that VIN. It was not from Dr. Rabara's roadster. He sold it back to Tesla.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that.
It was a little catastrophe.
Alright, before we get that guy back in, let's get these standoffs started.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 standoffs. And I think they actually go at the back, because if I remember correctly.
Yes, that goes in there.
Yeah, that goes in there.
It's slided in there. It's probably not enough then for the standoff.
But then we have a screw there and a screw there.
Yeah,
I
and
don't think they used all 4, because I only have 4 screws for it also.
Yeah.
So these actually go at the back.
Yeah, it would be difficult to with the standoffs and then with this connector there, this huge flat connector there, which is directly at the board. So there could not be a standoff there because there you need to slide that in first, right?
Right. It would definitely make things a little more difficult. Okay. This guy. Grab those guys. These standoffs don't need to be too terribly tight.
But a little bit, right?
Yeah. So we're just gonna snug them down a touch.
And they probably have top values for those, right? What the
I
heck?
believe so.
Ounce
Tesla has torque
inches
values
only.
for everything.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. There's even torque values for the screws that hold this thing into the dash.
Oh, really? This is about how, yeah. I think that's good enough.
Well, it appears that heatsink can go on either direction.
Oh.
And I think it needs to go on the other way. Because that opening should line up to the fan,
Yes.
which would put it over those two standoffs.
Yeah.
And this is too far over to the right. So we're going to pull this heatsink back off and we'll flip it.
You might want to change your connection, huh?
The grounding strap?
Your grounding strip, yeah.
I could, but I don't intend to let go of the card.
Okay.
So, as long as I stay in contact with the card, and these gloves are not statically neutral, so.
Good. That is tricky, right? You have the heatsink on the top or in both directions, right? But it should be that tab, the little heatsink. You know, there is this plastic in between. You remember? And that should be on top of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. This little plastic thing, that should be on top of the processor, and then you have it right. Yes, like that. Exactly. Because that transfers the heat signal, or the heat.
It is heatsink tape, I believe.
Yeah. On the Roadster, this was not so good. I replaced it later on the unit. That heatsink tape was of a lower material. And when I overhauled the Roadster PEM, we replaced all the heatsink material to a longer lasting, gooder, better heatsink material.
Okay.
I hope they learned from that.
Yeah. Considering all the new technology in these cars, though, I don't think the PEM is ever going to be a thing that happens again. There we go. Now that should be in the right spot.
Yes, now we can slide it in, that card, into the connector. Then there.
That's better.
That's better. That fits. Exactly.
That's where we should be.
The fan provides cooling there. Looking for the right tool again. When you look at the side, then you see also the sizes. Well, we try.
There we go. Alright.
Yeah, I bought that one time in Indiana. I need to repair something in a Maya's shop in Indiana. I bought that tool.
Comes in handy. got long screws at the front of the board because they go all the way through.
And then short ones on the
Short screws at the
stances.
back off the board
For the stances.
because the standoffs are not open on the back side.
It should be magnetic.
Yeah, they were in different sizes.
Wow! Wow! Tell us to make it complicated, yeah?
Yeah, so your screwdriver is magnetic, but the screws that Tesla likes to use are stainless steel. True stainless steel.
Means they are not magnetic?
Not magnetic. Nope. The stuff that makes steel magnetic is actually the nickel content. True stainless steel does not have nickel. But it has to be 100% stainless steel, zero nickel content.
I can use the nickel for the battery. By the way, they're coming out with a new battery, they said.
I saw that.
You keep also up to date, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I try to. Alright, so we're going to push this all the way in just to make sure we take out any play
Yeah.
in those holes, which there isn't much, but just to be on the safe side. And then we'll tighten these guys down. Again, just snug, doesn't have to be super tight. Alright.
Excellent.
Scary part's over.
So now it's more about assembly now. And actually, probably we don't need the small tools anymore, right?
Nope. We are done with the small tools.
Put them all back. There's even an applying device there, a small one. Okay, toolbox comes back. Special toolbox. In the morning it's good that the temperature is well nice.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to start earlier.
Much better in the morning.
Okay.
Alright. There we go. Now I can reach things a little better.
Yeah.
Alright, so this one lays flat against the board.
Then you
Get it started, push it in.
push it in, and then there are some clamps which clamps it together, right?
That one's only tabs. Only tabs on that guy.
Only tabs.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
only tabs. But we do push-pull test anyway. Don't pull too hard.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's secure. This one has a locking tab, so this one's full-on ribbon cable.
Yeah.
So we're going to stick that guy in. Seat it all the way down, and then this black tab, you're going to move forward and push down.
Yeah.
And then this has a locking tab on it also, and it goes right here. Just like that.
Okay, good. Now everything's connected, we can close that sucker.
Make sure this doesn't get pinched.
Ah, yes.
And then we'll drop it in. There it is. Alright. I'm going to unhook for a second and go grab some tools.
Yeah.
Alright. So, we're going to flip this guy over. In my experience, this is a little easier.
Yes, we did that before when we disassembled it, right?
Yeah.
And connecting again.
And then 2 screws at each plate. want to tighten them all the way down yet because this actually sets screen depth.
Ah.
And we're going to put that trim on first.
Yeah, the trim is nicely set and the screen is nicely in, and then we can tighten it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it central now. Really short screws there.
Mm-hmm. Very short screws. And easy to drop into the case.
Then you have to open it again, right?
Yep, so make sure you get a good hold on them.
So what are this type of gloves what you're using?
Just nitro.
Okay. And then the top screws there. Each comes in pairs.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all the same screw. If screws are micro encapsulated, Tessa prefers that they get replaced.
Not necessary. I know why, because they need to stick there, right? Mm-hmm. They don't fall out.
Mm-hmm.
No, you have to put some Loctite in there.
Yeah, you can, but in my experience, they don't tend to come back out. Alright, got all those started.
Okay.
At this point, the screen should be loose. You should be able to set depth on it.
Yeah. And now we have to put the
trim, which I believe I set in the back seat so it didn't get damaged.
Yep. Here's trim all around it.
Mm-hmm.
And connecting again.
Alright,
Put it on the floor.
got that hole right there. Lines up to that pin.
Okay. And that hole
Onto
there.
that.
Yeah.
And into the frame. Just like that. Alright. And then we have these coarse thread T20 screws. 6 of them.
They are connecting the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the
Screen to the trim.
screen to the trim.
They're very coarse threads, so they don't take a whole lot of turns to get in and out of there.
It's a very big thread. Yeah. This looks like 3 turns and they're done.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. Alright.
So now the trim is attached to the screen, and now we can look how that looks like.
Yep. Before we tighten these bottom two though,
Yeah.
you can see how this is contacting the plastic on the back side of the trim there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so while you're driving down the road, that'll actually make a little rattle noise. So what you want to do is just get your hand in there and separate those before you tighten these down.
Ah. That is a rattle noise.
Uh-huh. Chased after that one for a couple hours once. Okay.
This tiny noise, this tiny difference there.
Tiny bit of difference, that's all it takes. Alright, so when we go to tighten these side pieces down, what you're going to do is give it just a little bit of downward pressure. Make sure your screen is
set, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of tension against the trim. And then we'll run that in. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. A little bit of downward pressure. Run it in. Same thing on the top. Just a touch, downward pressure. And now we're good.
And now we can do the rest of the screws.
Yep.
All snug in. And the top screws and the bottom screws.
So when you flip this guy,
Yeah.
you should be pretty much in contact all the way around. There's actually a strip on the back side of this of foam that will protect the screen. But if it's not touching and you press your knee against it or anything like that in the car, they'll actually give you a false touch in that area.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that that stays in contact. No gaps.
And the top one is in the car, right?
Yeah, this top
Yeah.
strip is covered by the dashboard.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's it. That's our guy.
So get this in, or?
I pressed and say